How does the U.S. use electronic warfare in the air and at sea? Well, this small jet is the tip of the spear. Before America sends its most valuable aircraft into battle, this little guy goes in first. But what strategies does it actually use to blind enemy radar? Here's the thing. It has not one, not two, but three terrifying tricks up its sleeve. First, it can use spot jamming. That means it completely overwhelms enemy sensors, like shining a flashlight directly into someone's eyes. Second option, it can create a digital duplicate of itself. Imagine this. Enemy missiles lock on to what they think is a real jet, but it's just a ghost, a phantom. The missile explodes on nothing. And the third trick? This one's almost unfair. It beams entire fleets of fake jets directly onto the enemy's radar screens. But here's the scary part. They don't just fire up these weapons blindly. Secret. Conspiratorial, like sharing a secret they don't tell you. For months, U.S. spy planes and satellites have been hovering just out of reach, quietly listening, hunting for the electronic fingerprints of enemy radar systems, mapping exactly where they are, how they communicate, their weaknesses. All of that intelligence gets loaded directly into the brains of these jets. This is the EA-18G Growler's advanced electronic warfare system. See that rear seat? The person sitting back there isn't just a passenger. That's the ECMO, the Electronic Countermeasures Officer. While the pilot flies the jet, the ECMO controls every single jamming system in real time. He's the brains behind the chaos. With the ALQ-99 jamming pod, he can choose the perfect technique. Spot jamming? Done. Once the Growler sensors sniff out the exact frequency of an enemy radar, it doesn't just make noise. It focuses over 10 kilowatts of raw electromagnetic power directly at it. It burns through the radar's processing like a blowtorch. The defense grid goes completely blind. But the Growler doesn't just blind the enemy. Oh no. It plays mind games. Here's how it works. It catches an incoming radar pulse, scrambles the data, and fires it right back. Suddenly, the radar operator sees dozens of ghost fighter jets swarming their screen. Panic sets in. Surface-to-air missiles launch, but they lock onto phantoms, billions of dollars worth of missiles detonating in empty sky. But what if an enemy missile actually manages to lock onto a real U.S. jet? The Growler pulls a massive bait and switch. It perfectly mimics the targeted jet's exact speed, exact location, creating a digital clone. Once the enemy radar locks onto this clone, the Growler slowly drags the fake signal away. The tracking system, completely fooled, blindly chases the ghost, and the real aircraft, it escapes unharmed. But here's the thing about jamming. It's not magic. There's something called the burn-through zone. If a U.S. jet flies too close to the enemy radar, usually within 20 to 60 miles, the sheer power of that radar will eventually burn through the jamming, and then the plane is spotted. That's why the Growler has to maintain a perfect, high-stakes geometric dance, constantly hovering right on the razor's edge of the threat zone. One mistake, and it's over. Before a single fighter jet leaves the runway, the invisible war has already begun. For weeks, spy planes and satellites have been listening, hunting, mapping. They compile everything into a digital hit list, loaded directly into the Growler's brain. Back at command, planners aren't just drawing flight paths on a map. They're navigating a deadly three-dimensional maze, calculating massive threat rings around every enemy missile system, plotting exact coordinates, safe zones in the sky, where the Growlers can orbit and blast their jamming signals without getting shot down. When the strike package finally launches, it's a highly choreographed machine, 30 minutes to target. The Growlers reach their standoff positions, 50 to 100 miles out. They unleash a massive wave of broadband noise, blanketing the enemy's early warning screens in thick electronic fog. The goal right now isn't to hide, it's to blind the enemy's big picture view before the real raid even begins. 15 minutes out, the strike fighters push into the kill zone. The Growlers move in to escort them. The jamming shifts from a blunt sledgehammer to a scalpel. They inject fake targets into enemy screens, scramble their speed and distance readings. The radar operators are drowning in signals, completely unable to tell which blips are real aircraft and which are digital ghosts. Now, the enemy faces a terrifying dilemma. If an operator realizes they're being jammed and tries to crank up their radar's power to see through the noise, they paint a giant bullseye on their own back. U.S. jets instantly fire a supersonic harm missile that rides that radar beam all the way to the source. The enemy's choice? Impossible. Turn off your radar and be blind. Leave it on and be destroyed. While the radars are blinded, the Growlers are also severing the enemy's vocal cords. They jam the communication networks linking missile batteries to Central Command. Even if a rogue battery spots a U.S. jet, they can't get clearance to fire. They can't warn their allies. The mighty air defense network dissolves into a bunch of confused, isolated outposts. Bombs away. But the danger isn't over. As the strike jets pull up to escape, they're low, slow, and highly vulnerable. The Growlers don't let up. They maintain a deafening electronic scream, keeping the enemy blind until every last aircraft has safely crossed back over the horizon. On February 28, 2026, the Growlers and the rest of the strike force showed the world exactly why America has a $1 trillion military budget. Using a highly advanced mix of electronic warfare and cyber operations, coordinated from space to the ground, the coalition injected false data directly into enemy radar screens. Top-tier air defense systems, like their indigenous Bavar 373 and their Russian-supplied S-300 batteries, were absolutely overwhelmed. But to actually hunt them down, the U.S. set a brilliant trap. They launched hundreds of ADM-160 MALDs, miniature air-launched decoys. To a panicked enemy radar operator staring at a chaotic screen, these tiny drones looked exactly like a massive squadron of F-15s or F-16s screaming toward the capital. With the door kicked wide open, fifth-generation stealth fighters, including both U.S. and coalition F-35s, sliced through the airspace, completely undetected. The enemy's air defense network wasn't just suppressed, it was dismantled. They said the airspace over Venezuela was impenetrable, locked down by the Russian-made S-300 anti-access system, a beast capable of swatting aircraft out of the sky from 150 miles away. But in the dark of night, the myth of invincibility didn't just crack, it evaporated. One of the most dangerous electronic weapons comes from disc-shaped objects attached to this Black Hawk helicopter. The Pentagon hasn't officially disclosed the hardware, but military experts call it a soft kill system. How does it work? The weapon fires a focused beam of pulsed microwave energy that passes right through the skull. These beams are absorbed by water in the brain tissue and fluid in the inner ear. This causes minuscule, rapid heating, less than 1 degree. But that tiny, sudden expansion generates a pressure wave inside the skull. The target hears sounds, clicks, buzzing, a roar, that originates inside their own head, bypassing the eardrums entirely. If the frequency is tuned to the inner ear's resonance, it violently disrupts balance, causing immediate vertigo. At higher power levels, that rapid tissue expansion can rupture capillaries, leading to nosebleeds and internal trauma. There's another possibility, a weaponized infrasonic pulse emitter. Instead of a continuous beam, this device fires high-intensity slugs of low-frequency air pressure, below 20 Hz. These waves travel through the body, matching the resonant frequency of internal organs, like the stomach or lungs. High-intensity infrasound can actually cause cavitation, the formation of bubbles in bodily fluids. When those bubbles collapse, they create tiny shock waves that damage tissue. The target feels intense vibration in their gut, leading to severe nausea, effectively paralyzing them with pain and sickness. Tactically, U.S. forces used this technology as the ultimate force multiplier. The result? Hundreds of Venezuelan guards weren't fought in a traditional gun battle. They were incapacitated, sick, dizzy, bleeding, long before U.S. troops made contact. This allowed a small team of approximately 20 operators to walk virtually unopposed through a much larger force.